What do you find as a major difference right from starting with something being a strategic GCC versus something be a support GCC?
Eventually, it has moved from a doer's job to a thinker's job. In fact, there is every single GCC in India, you would see that there are doers, there are thinkers, and there are doer thinkers.
Globally, you must focus on all the three like technology development, IP creation, and ECF external cash flow as well.
I think we can do a lot in India, and that's how they actually create the entire program and make sure that they give us pods. We are also now working on Gen AI stack. We are saying that hey, we found that you guys have a Gen AI stack in the US. We can find equally good, talented people in India, and they are giving us those kind of roles. So that's what we are talking about.
And do you think, from a strategy perspective, if somebody is looking at strategy, they should bring a leader from their homegrown base here? Or do you think there are kind of leaders like that in India, and where do we find them?
Strategic is not about headcount. It's about the value that you can create, right? And can you create value? Can you? It can be as to bringing the processes in, bringing the whole IP creation. Are you owning up the business outcomes at the end level, right? At the T level.
How much autonomy do they have? How much can they do on their own? Let's look at a 100 people GCC compared to a 5,000 people GCC. If there is a 5,000 people GCC and who, as an India leader, who is actually a part of the leadership team globally, you would see a very different kind of delivery happening out of that center. If you have to build a new product, just take an example of a technology firm which has to build a new product. Where could you hire 100 engineers who could work possibly more than 40 hours a week and build a product, turn it around in 6 months? You would say, I would possibly do it fastest in India.
The bulk of hiring in these colleges were from the IT service companies. The number of engineering graduates coming out of the college has gone up 5 times. So I have 3,000 students passing out, but only 100 are going into IT service companies today.
Hi, welcome everyone. Welcome to another episode of Titans Talk. So today, we wanted to talk something that is, kind of a less talked about topic, because GCCs are becoming like a old wine in a new bottle. They're just becoming a modern version of ODCs, just outside in a different building, but with the same set of people, same set of mindsets. So we wanted to have that conversation today with a set of GCC leaders on their perspectives on how GCCs can become strategy HubSpots and hotspots, and not just be ODCs where you just augment bodies to get work done. So that's where we are. So I'll start off with introduction. Karthik, if you can introduce yourself.
Yeah, hello, good morning. I'm Karthik Subramanian. I'm from Vishwakarma Institute of Technology. So I've been there for about 25 years now as a professor in computer science department. Previously, I was the head of the computer engineering department. Since the last 8 years, I look at training and placements for internships as well as jobs for approximately 3,000 engineering students who graduate each year from our college. So that's the role I'm looking at and connected to various industries across India for this purpose. Thank you.
Thanks. Vishnu.
Hey, my name is Vishwanath. I lead a company called Plug Scale Consulting. We are a GCC enabling company. I also have an option to work with companies who are actually managing new set of GCCs in India, especially in high tech, and come with close to 25 years of experience. Worked with brands like Wells Fargo, Deutsche Bank, Dun& Bradstreet. Last 6 months has been a crazy experience. Setting up new companies in India. Happy to be part of this. Thank you.
Manish.
Thanks for having me here first. My name is Manish Chhabra. For the last 25 years, I've been involved with capability centers of all kinds under different names. I worked with Accenture, Dell for around 13 years, Amazon, Sprinkler. For the last a little over 2 years, I have been with an organization called Center for Creative Leadership, and I lead their GCC in India.
Wonderful. Venu.
Hi Gautam, thank you for having me here with all my beautiful colleagues here. So I am Venuji. I'm an aerospace scientist working with national laboratories, and past 20 years I'm in the field of R&D, research and development, in the field of aerospace, handling national programs, catering to the needs of different sectors, spreading over and having connected with industry and academia, where we discuss about or deliberate brainstorming about the capability centers and nurturing the talent for future India and for global competence. So this platform, I hope, will give or enlighten some more points for the GCC's upbringing. Thank you.
Got it. Thanks. Asha?
Hi, Asha here. I am a socioeconomic entrepreneur, chairing as a president for Wiki, which is a women uh, council and association for commerce of chambers and industry. And I had the leadership coaching council, where again we're looking at capability building with the founding person of an organization where we call it as MegMind, global consulting firm, where we clearly focus on executive search, leadership training and coaching, and transformation projects. And that's where I play a key role in GCCs. And I can tell you how things are changing around in the GCC sector. Thank you.
Got it. Cool. So, Manish, I wanted to, kind of, start off with you. Okay, I wanted to understand. So, before GCC was a nomenclature at all, Dell, Amazon, and all of them, set up shops here, and then, only people with that kind of scale could set it up. Now it's become more and more, like a cottage industry. Even with the 20 people, somebody can set up a GCC. But then that said, what do you find as a major difference right from starting, with something being a strategic GCC versus something be a support GCC?
I think what when we started 25 years back, like you said, only large organizations came here. And primarily they came here for doing jobs, like which were a doer's role. Eventually they realized over time that one, they could do a lot more than the current function they were thinking of. Technology was our first play, back offices came second, then the finance functions came, and then everything else came. Now there's nothing that we don't do out of India. That said, eventually it has moved from a doer's job to a thinker's job. In fact, there is every single GCC in India, you would see that there are doers, there are thinkers, and there are doer thinkers, all kinds. So I think we have evolved over the last 25 years. And also, organizations of all sizes from all kind of geographies have come here and made use of the talent here.
Got it, Manish. So Venu, I just wanted to kind of shift that from a scientist lens. Does an engineering or an R&D center influencing global roadmaps instead of just delivering bodies and specs?
See, when you talk about R&D, there actually one question raises whether are we going to focus on particular technology or are we going to build your capability. Okay, these two prime factors comes into the mind. So as far as organization is taken, so we have to focus on technology development, and as you rightly said that whether are we going to influence locally. Yes, we have to influence locally so that you can reach to the global competence. So how that we will achieve is basically the creation of your intellectual properties and the technology development, and how are you going to even get the ECF, the external cash flow for the organization. That is also prime factor for the organization growth. So to be competent globally, you must focus on all the three, like technology development, IP creation, and ECF, external cash flow as well.
Hey, Vishwanath. So I wanted to, kind of understand. You work with a lot of GCCs in both at a leadership level recruitment as well as at a tactical level recruitment. So what are the key things that you see in GCCs that are looking at strategic impact versus GCCs that are just looking at support GCCs, or just body shopping and reducing costs?
So I think it's a very interesting question, Gautam. So let me ask you this. Let me tell you this thing, right? So when they come in, they use a lot of the strategic words and all that, and they say that okay, this is what we would like to build. But when you start looking at the execution part, that's when the tactical stuff of hey, we need 30 people, and this is a full stack. This is data engineers that we need, right? So what we ask them, in turn, is that okay? So tell us the entire project plan. What is that you would like to do? Okay. Now, how many teams you have globally? Which team you would like to ship and lift and shift? How is that the talent landscape is actually coming out? And that these questions actually translate them to understand. Okay, these guys. I think we can do a lot in India, and that's how they actually create the entire program and make sure that they give us pods. These pods are basically a data engineering pod, engineering functions. There are functions in full stack. We are also now working on Gen AI stack. We are saying that, hey, we found that you guys have a Gen AI stack in the US. We can find equally good, talented people in India, and they are giving us those kind of roles. So that's what we are talking about. So it's all depends upon how we sell the value proposition. It's not about what they want to do, right? If we really tell them, okay, this is a marketplace, and they can actually take a lot of better decisions as we speak. Thank you very much.
So, Ashnath, one follow up question. Okay. So, what I am seeing as a pattern is that you call it a GCC, you want it to be strategic, but then you end up hiring an IT leader who has derived all his value from the headcount he has managed. And then you put him as the head of the GCC. So he is all about, getting in more bodies and feeling more powerful than his colleague, saying that, hey, that guy is doing this for them. He has 2,000, I have 2,500. So I'm a bigger dog
Yeah.
than him. That is the kind of thing that drives most of these decisions. And do you think, from a strategy perspective, if somebody is looking at strategy, they should bring a leader from their homegrown base here? Or do you think there are kind of leaders like that in India, and where do we find them?
So there are people in India. In fact, in the last assignment and previous assignments, we were able to hire almost 75% of people within India with that kind of caliber. And interestingly, that trend is going up. So which means that their talent is available. It's about how you identify them. What, because these guys are very happy what they are doing, where they are doing, right? You have to bring them up and tell that, okay, this is what their vision is, and I'm sure they'll understand it and they will do it. So short answer is there is talent available in India. We don't need to scratch our head, but then how do you nurture them? How do you take, because these are all passive people, they're doing really well in their own current organizations. You know, tell them your agenda, you know, to tell them your goal and all that stuff, and they'll make them to candidate from a passive to active, and then finally make them an opportunity. I think that's doable. So 75% of the leaders are still available in India.
I wanted a more controversial answer from you. I will dig in a little more deeper. How do you
Absolutely.
identify an IT leader who is driven by headcount versus how do you identify a GCC leader who is more driven by, the strategic output that he's able to derive?
We can actually use psychometrics to do that. In fact, one of the things that we always look at is, instead of we selling the role, we ask them what motivates them. And if their answer is that they look at head count, they look at $1 million kind of, revenue, that kind of thing, and those are not the people that you need to hire. And that becomes your strategic question to answer and understand, okay, these are not the people that you should hire, right?
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Asha, because you're in the recruitment space and executive recruitment, I just wanted to follow up on that from a, what do you say? What kind of, leaders in the past that you've recruited have found, transitioning into a more value-based role or a strategy role into a GCC, seamless versus what kind of, leaders that you have hired have still seemed to be stuck in that services mode, billing mode, and headcount mode?
I think here I would want to step back a little and say the whole origin of GCCs, right? GCCs were called captive
Please.
centers, shared services in 1980s and 1990s. In 2000, we started calling them as global in-house centers, right? Where we started development and all, apart from just payrolling. Then in 2020 onwards, we call GCCs Global Capability Center, right? And now the shift that we're looking at is if you're looking at a leader who had the shared services or captive centers, and where the only reason why even it started was cost effective reason, right? If you have a leader who's come up with that thought process, then it's hard to become a strategic thinker because strategic is not about headcount, it's about the value that you can create, right? And can you create value? It can be as to bringing the processes in, bringing the whole IP creation. Are you owning up the business outcomes at the end level, right, at the T level? So that is a thought process, and that's the difference that you will see in the leaders. So leaders who careers got shaped in the setup where it was more of things are there, you're running it. It was 100, you made it 2,000 or 5,000 or 10,000. Then those leaders are going to be stuck in that service mode. But if you've got the leader who said, okay, I'm going to set it up, and I agree with Vishwa when he was saying we have a lot of capability in India because we are a startup hub. Startups come with that transformation mindset that I need to bring and create things from scratch. The person who thinks like that is the leader who will be able to move to the strategic mode.
So now I'm going to, put you on a spot and ask you. So because when you said 1980s, 1990s, are you referring to the fact that any leader who's in his 50s is probably more like that, and the leaders
If
in
they
40s are
haven't,
better?
if their careers is only shaped with those, with
Uh,
no exposure, then it would
no, no,
be.
you will have to take a rational call, right? So because I run a recruitment consulting firm as well, I can, share the thought process. Because what happens is when leaders are recruiting, right? So they very subtly say, hey, nobody above 35. I'd want somebody with fire in the belly. I don't want any uncles here. Okay. But this is a offline conversation where they can afford to tell it. But you cannot put it on the JD, you cannot put it on the public platform. And then when you talk, you see, okay, this guy is graduated in 2000, so 2000 plus 21 plus this, and you calculate his age, and then you go from there, right? So that is how you kind of, end up doing bulk of the things. So I'm just asking you, so as a pattern, everybody is unique, okay?
Right.
Not all women are bad drivers. Women are bad drivers is a generic statement. Not all men are bad emotionally. So some there are. So whenever we say it's a universal statement. Just to understand that from that perspective. So do you consciously try to avoid people who have been in those kind of setups without even investigating whether they have that kind of a mindset to speed up your hiring process?
If I have not seen them moving around, yes.
Okay. So then again, and I have another question. So there is this thing with stability, and there is this thing with loyalty, and there is this thing with so they want people who move fewer times. At the same time, they want people with versatile experience. How do you handle that?
So loyalty is concept of loyalty is changed. Loyalty is no more sitting with same company for 10 years.
Okay.
Loyalty is if I'm with the company for 3 months, have I given a value in those 3 months? Have I created some value in 3 months?
Okay. Loyalty's definition has changed.
Totally.
So so coming back to you, right, Manish. So why do you think most Indian GCCs are still seen as delivery engines and not as strategy co-pilots?
I think the one word that we need to discuss here is how much autonomy do they have? How much can they do on their own? Let's look at a 100 people GCC compared to a 5,000 people GCC. If there is a 5,000 people GCC and who, as an India leader, who is actually a part of the leadership team globally, you would see a very different kind of delivery happening out of that center. But if you see a 500 people organization where there are 10 functions, but all those 10 functions are reporting to 10 different leaders who have actually no stake in the overall direction of the organization, then you get a completely different flavor out of this because each one of them is focusing on their particular swim lane. So you would not get an extreme strategic value. So strategic value you would only get when you have trust in the leadership here locally. You have a horizontal and a vertical layout. Horizontals can exist, technology, horizontal, accounting, horizontal, all kinds. But vertically, that person should have a seat on the table in the global organization that they can take a call. And that's how I see the difference between strategic and transactional. They're both kinds which are existing today.
You see more of this kind exist in the larger GCC setups where the vision is aligned, or do you see this disparateness and lack of focus in the smaller ones? Do you see a pattern there?
I do see a pattern. You would see organizations where the chief executives and the executive leadership has traveled across the world, has a global exposure. They would tell you that India is the place to be, not just for the last 15 years, but also for the next 25 years at least. When they have that vision, they will make sure that the GCC that they have is actually truly a global capability center. It's like your HQ2. Like you have an headquarter wherever in the world, but you want to build a second headquarter where you're hiring talented people to deliver. That's the strategic mindset which is needed at the executive level. Now, if you have only a transactional setup here, either done through a third party organization, then they transition into your own label, and then you have one functional leader who's leading a team here, that is not truly a strategic play. That is a transaction play. So, but I definitely see that more and more organizations are moving towards the strategic piece and saying, we are here in India for a long time. This is the place to hire global talent and make use of that talent to make sure the company grows.
So because I work with these guys. So the initial setup, they still believe that, the local IT majors are the ones that know the landscape, that know where to set up what and all of that. So how it is a like a bot model where they partner with the service provider, ask them to set up the service end to end, hire the strategic leaders and all of that. Whereas the services company is still optimizing for cost, seeing that if they can cut a 30 lakh off the budget of this leader, would that add to their bottom line? So that kind of thought process is also there. So how do when your setup itself is on a wrong foot, how do you ensure that it is corrected to strategic over the time? Has it happened, or is it?
I think you picked a very, very important point. The primary driver originally for most of the players was cost. When they came for cost, they actually saw that the cost plus talent is an amazing play. There is a third factor which is coming in now: cost plus talent plus scale. Like if you have to build a new product, just take an example of a technology firm which has to build a new product. Where could you hire 100 engineers who could work possibly more than 40 hours a week and build a product, turn it around in 6 months? You would say, I would possibly do it fastest in India. That's where I think the shift is happening. So they did come for cost. By the way, cost is not coming going out of the way. But people who are focusing, organizations who are focusing now on saying, well, cost is one function. That's a given, has to happen. But am I getting the right talent? Am I getting the right scale? Can I scale up and scale down and scale horizontally? That's important. And I think that's where the shift is happening.
Got it. So Karthik, interestingly, so how do kids from college perceive these GCCs? What do they consider it as? Like a high strategic GCC versus something which is a low impact GCC. What drives them to join the GCCs? What are the key things that they use in decision making?
Yeah. So I'll start by going a little bit into the history, as in the engineering colleges in India. If you see 20 years back, the bulk of hiring in these colleges were from the IT service companies. So in my college also around 20 years back, we were graduating just about 600 engineers a year, and out of that 500 would be picked up by 5 companies. Okay, so that's how it was. In fact, the training placement officer at those days would call them as truck companies. I mean, as in trying to say that they come in a truck and take 100 guys and they go out. So this was happening, all was good, so on. To a great extent, this has changed since the last 4 years. I think the last big hiring that happened from IT service companies was in 2022, 1 year after the pandemic, when they hired very big numbers. That was the year when, again, in my college, I had around 600 guys picked up by IT service companies. Since the last 3 years, that number is less than 100. On the other hand, the number of engineering graduates coming out of the college has gone up 5 times. So I have 3,000 students passing out, but only 100 are going into IT service companies today. Since the last 2 3 years, it's like that, and that's how it is by and large across. So one thing is the numbers have come down there, and the second thing is their salaries have been pretty much the same. If 20 years back they were paying about 2.5 lakhs, now they are paying about 3.5 to 4 lakhs starting. IT service companies, because of which that's not attractive. So what has happened is somehow these GCCs and the increase of that has happened in the last couple of years has actually benefited colleges and students. So I get at least, I would say, not overestimating, but in a month a dozen GCCs we sign up new, as in we have a new sign up with them saying that we identify, and they're willing to come to our college to hire recruit students. Almost a dozen a month minimum, which means in a year at least we will get 100 150 companies like that. So the thing is, these guys, they don't hire a very big number, obviously. The numbers are going to be in single digits only. Maximum it can go up to 12 or so, but never more than that. But the thing is, for freshers, the payment that they offer is pretty interesting. It's around 8 to 10 lakhs. That's the median. Some may be offering 7, but some offer 12, 13 as well. So that average is 8 to 10, which is a sweet spot. Freshers coming out of colleges in India, they find that as an attractive place to start with. So that's one thing. So two things I said. One is an opportunity to work. Second is a decent salary. And third thing, most important, is the work is also good. So this also we have seen, because we have our students now, because nowadays, all GCCs also in India are hiring only through internships. That's how at least it's happening in Pune. So they will hire a student as an intern either for 6 months or even a year, and only then confirm a full-time employment. So that being the case, we are seeing very closely the kind of work our students do as well. So they are getting good work, as in, they are companies, GCCs are willing to put students on their projects, you know hardly in a month or 2 months. That's very small. It's not that they take too much time to put the student on a real project of theirs. No, in a couple of months they put them. So when we, because these internships again, they have academic credits in college. So when our professors evaluate the work and when we take the feedback from students, we see that they have done decent work. They have done good work. They have worked in a project. Many of them have worked in development, or even if it has been tech support or something, it has been of substance. So three things: opportunities, salary, as well as work. So on all these fronts, I think it's becoming a win-win for colleges and students. So
Got it.
so that's what we are seeing in the last. This change has happened only in the last 2 3 years. Before that, even we weren't looking so much. We were happy with the IT service companies coming and taking 600 guys out. We would think that chalo, in 1 week everything is done, and the training placement officer would go back and start teaching again. Because we are all teachers also. But since the 3 years, it's not like that. I'm full time now, because these numbers are all just two, three, four, five, like that. So daily, we have to keep doing something. Yeah.
Understood. So one thing I wanted to, kind of pan across is that we have convinced the world of the cost arbitrage long before the GCC trend kind of started. Now the GCC trend is more like a gold rush. Hey, I have put up a GCC, he has put up, you have not put it up yet. So that is the kind of conversation I see my US clients having. So let's just go and put up a GCC. Why? Because everybody is doing that. If I don't do it, what is my thing? So that cost arbitrage is something that we've convinced the world of. When it comes to value arbitrage, whether it is tech innovation or R&D innovation, how do you think we can convince the globe that this is not just a cheap labor market? It is a much more value driven market, and you can do things that you try to do in America much effective faster here.
This actually, I would like to remind or recollect that now GCC is having a lot of synonyms. Okay, and one of this is GVC, Global Value
Value.
Center.
Okay.
So I would like to bring to that point. So it is not that you will be establishing one branch office kind of thing, where parental organization will be controlling that kind of thing. When it comes to R&D, what one needs to understand is that the purpose of establishing a center there. Okay, earlier we used to call like liaison office. Okay, where the liaison office will be handling the projects or taking up the problems and addressing that issue, doing some R&D and then offering the solution. So now it has changed. Now it has changed that you have to give end-to-end solution, and you should have, as Manish mentioned, the autonomous control over the project. Okay, so now the trend is changing that you are giving more autonomous control to the GCC. Okay, so the center, the local body, whichever does one project, then they will be given full control on that, so that what happens, it will evolve independently. Okay, though it will be controlled by the parent organization, still it will stand on its own as a global value center, because you are creating a value for that. And through that center itself, actually you will be getting a lot of reputation for the parent organization also. So that trend is clearly visible in when it comes to R&D centers now. So as he said, what kind of work the people are doing, so each and every element of their contribution is well assessed, and the due credit also will be given to that. That trend is very much visible in the present scenario.
Got it. Got it. So Vishwanath, panning it across to you, right? Like there are some GCCs which are a decade old, and then there are some GCCs that have been set up right now, where fresh and young. But then let's say they've started on the wrong foot by using it more like a augmented capability center, more kind of a cost arbitrage center. and then they come to you and say, hey, you know what, we want to, let's assume this GCC we're talking about has an India and India head and MD, and then senior vice presidents, everything, the complete full stack is in present. They come to you and say, hey, you know what, we want to make this a strategic value creation center, not just a cost arbitrage center. What would be your 90-day plan for them?
So I think the first 30 days anyway is set up where they understand what kind of talent and market research and all that. I think that's the first stage. Second stage I must say is that the hiring, right? So when we look at what kind of people are required, so sometimes what happens is we have this interesting notion that one job of a contractor in the US is equivalent to one job of India resource, right? But if you look deeper with the talent availability, and Manish also added that point, is that there are times when you can actually club three or four jobs into one job because your talent availability is very high, and then the knowledge that the people carry is very very high, right? And some of these universities, I was talking to one of the universities, they are actually teaching domain specific skills also. Technology is anyway there because, so what is happening is that is one challenge. Second one is getting challenges also about years of experience versus experience in those years, right? You can be 10 years experience in IT testing, but then if you have 1 year of Gen AI experience, you can talk about what skill is more popular and important, right? So and with this automation coming in, a lot of changes are happening. So the leaders are now saying that, okay, fine, so this is my problem statement, I don't want to tell you how you have to solve, and they are leaving this to an India leadership. They are able to figure out solutions from campus, from and you will not believe that some of the companies are not hiring from talent from the same industry because they wanted fresh ideas, because they wanted to create an R&D kind of setup in India, or the research center kind of a setup in India. And when you talked about VC, GVC, I think companies are also now talking about global transformation centers. Manish added a point where he said that companies are transforming. There are companies in India, especially retail examples I have, that they have a India center head who is also playing a global role as a CTO, and that's a true transformation organization. And if you feel that, okay, India is a place that you need to invest, you also have to have this guy also play a larger role in the headquarters. Otherwise, what will happen is you are pushing this guy to do what he or she wants to do, and he or she will come up with some beautiful ideas. You will knock down because he or she is not part of the board, which is not talking about those aspects, right? So I think it's important for us to understand that I think we are creating value now. Can this value be equivalent to HQ value, right? The true value a GCC can do is if they have everything what HQ is doing in India, and they are solving. In fact, one of the retail company, their entire data center is in India. Their entire data work happens in India. That's a true transformation example. So companies like other GCC should take that example. They should not take 25 years to reach there. So they should do it in 5 years, 4 years. That's the value creation.
So I expected a little more insight from you. This is very important when it is an ongoing thing where the leadership is aligned. I want the reason I told that, assume that the leadership is already intact and it has made it like a more cost arbitrage center. So the first thing what I wanted to understand from you is, you know, in companies that I've worked with as clients, the first thing they do is they fire the CEO. Okay. The new CEO comes in. Then he does is in the next 1 month, all the SVPs are changed. This promulgates by 6 months, you see the entire setup is gone. Like in 6 months' time, you will have new directors, new senior managers. People at tactical level, they adopt to the new boss. But people who are not leadership value oriented or aligned, right, they get replaced because it's difficult to make them unlearn, relearn, and all of that. So my question is, if an organization is already towards the cost arbitrage, trajectory, and you are asked to come in and move the trajectory this way, what would be your first thing? As in, yes, if they are not aligned, what would you do?
So I think they're not aligned because they have some data that they feel that that data is correct. As a leader, you have to showcase them some examples of what success really means in this part of the world. Showcase them with good conviction. In fact, today you will not believe a GCC leaders are interested to talk to another GCC leaders from an example standpoint of how case studies are done. Right? Showcase them. Sometimes what happens is an external perspective really adds a lot of value. showcase them what kind of work has been done by somebody who's a leader, and then make them feel that okay, this can be done, and drive that as a leadership. That's, and many companies are actually happy to kind of work with you, talk to you, because they know that they are in the same industry, but the examples are not same, right? So I think that way we can solve that problem.
Okay. So, Asha, a different variant of the same question. How do you see a strategic GCC hire people versus what do you say, a traditional or an orthodox cost arbitrage GCC hire people in the leadership level?
I think clear four things that I would look at. One is the profile, right? What kind of the leader, what the individual was, where he's coming from, where she is coming from, right? Where you shaped with the captive centers or GCC that already existed, or were you a transformation leader, right? I think that makes a lot of difference. And then the conversations around in the typical, I would say, cost set of center still, then the GCCs is where you're looking at cost, you're saying, oh, what is the headcount that you rate, what is the growth you brought in, and all of that. But when you're having a conversation for the leaders whom you want to bring in for the strategic mode, you ask them, what is the value creation you've done, right? And have you moved around? Do you have a business exposure? Have you been in charge of P&L, business outcomes, right? And do you understand your end customer? So if you see a couple of strategic GCCs, you see the senior guys. The title itself has changed. You're no more called a delivery head or center head. You're called chief transformation officer, or you've called head of strategy and insights. So the names are changing, and the reporting is also changed. The reporting is also, you are you comfortable reporting to a global CEO, right? Or CXO level, C-suite. You are no more reporting just to the India team, and and you're not on operational calls. And are you somebody who can do a stakeholder influence, not management, not people pleasing, right? So that is, I think that attribute is very important when you look at, and the mindset. What is your mindset? Are you a go-getter? Are you somebody who's going to say, hey, I'm going to bring all those IP creation into India, right? Into the GCC here. I think that speaks a volume.
Okay. So Manish, again, flipping back to you, right? So, what is one high impact GCC that you've seen, and what are the must-have components in those kind of a high impact GCC?
So selfish answer, I'm building a high impact GCC right now.
Okay.
So that's one. Two, I must say, all the previous organizations I've worked for are high impact GCCs. And the definition of a high impact GCC is, I think you have to look at two, three key tangents. Number one, are you talking to the customer directly? Number one, super critical. And those skills are one, hard to train, hard to scale, and super critical for an organization. Therefore, do you make an impact to the P&L from a cost standpoint? So if you just move 5 to 10% of headcount to a GCC, you possibly made 5 to 10% impact on the bottom line. But if you have got a significant amount of functions happening out of a cost optimized location like India, then you really made an impact on the P&L. So I think that is, I would say, high impact. The third aspect is there are a lot of conversations at the board level, at the executive level, where there is a talk of next 5 year future. In that conversation, do you feature? Like, do you? I think we should take a good example. Look at the Gen AI talent now. It's easier to hire 50 engineers who can actually build a complete setup around Gen AI in 6 months or less. I'm just guessing a time here. Than it is anywhere in the world. I can confidently say. So, are you on those conversations or not? I think that's a third tangent, and the fourth tangent is that are you taking care of the talent supply here? Like, are you building a brand as an employer here that you're seen as a great organization and people want to aspire on? I think we spoke about how in colleges GCCs are now seen a place to go to, primarily because GCCs think in dollar terms or in euro terms, right? The service organizations, and I'm just going to add to the point he made earlier, was um, I think 2001 $1 was 45 rupees. Today it's 90 rupees as of today. So 2x. But if you are hiring somebody at $10,000 in 2001, are you hiring somebody at $10,000 today? But if a GCC was to hire, they would say, boss, I am in a state where the basic wage is say $10 an hour. So a person at basic wage would cost me like $20,000 a year. I'm just giving random numbers here. And if I'm getting somebody who's an engineering graduate who can scale in 5 years, has a loyalty higher than 3 months, like Asha said, and why won't I hire that person and train them? And like he said, and also that person is available on internship, willing to throw a talent in and willing to scale. I would definitely go hire that person. So I think organizations who are looking at that kind of spectrum of decisions are truly a strategic decision.
Got it. Got it. So now, I wanted to touch upon the key part, which is the moat of the GCC, which is the talent. Okay. And everybody, says that my talent is unique, my requirements are unique, and the way I want the talent is different. So I just want to throw the floor open, not in the script. So, I wanted to understand. So I believe that the, engagement with academia is a very, very important piece where they set up centers of excellence and then train talent, groom talent, first teach them domain, then give them domain specific problems, and then bring talent onto the company. So there are educational institutions that are willing to put up the capital to set up the centers of excellence and want to, create a talent pipeline. So how much do you think is important for this kind of a setup to exist in India, and how should GCCs go about doing this?
I'll take that. So, example today, we are talking to seven companies, and these seven companies have tied up with six,
Yes.
universities, right? Now, interestingly, seven and six doesn't make any sense, but if you see, all the seven companies feel that the talent is available at the grassroots level, which is universities, and they are okay to give their 5 year plan in terms of the domain skills or technology skills which are available. And universities are very fast in training them, because students themselves actually are very very fast in adopting technology and all that stuff, right? And then there is a structural interventions, three interventions. One is that second year, third year, and fourth year. We know what exactly the person has to kind of achieve by end of second year, and that strategic discussion happens at that time. So you literally are actually, the person is studying in the university, but that person belongs to you as an employee, right? So that is what we are seeing as one of the examples that we talked about. Second thing is, companies now are asking them to do smaller projects called as remote internships. And you will not believe that one of the universities that we are talking to, they are building a HQ equivalent kind of a software which experienced people in HQ are sitting and making it. And these guys have already become already made 80% of the product ready. So they are now thinking that, okay, it's not about experience anymore, it's the talent which is required, and that talent is available, right? So companies are now interested to build stronger relationship with the universities, provided universities give them that kind of credit. Because what happens is, I train for you, but give it to somebody else doesn't make any sense, right? So there's a lot of infrastructure. For example, I'm sure you know this, there is a concept called as campus labs and all that. That lab belongs to that university, but then the lab product should come to the campus, right? So there's a lot of investments happening, and I think all the other companies that I'm talking to, they're very happy with the existing leadership and existing contribution. So it only says that I think a stronger partnership is getting built. But yes, I think it's we are in the process of refining and making it better.
I would like to put some more
Yeah.
light on what Vishwa is saying. See, now the present trend is going to establish center of excellences at university level. I will tell you why that is utmost important. See, let us take a case where university is not tied up with any industry. Okay, Karthik will correct me. So the research at universities level, still there is a skill development for the students, but how that is happening is the research or any problem or any experimentation will be done based on the literature available. Like they will go through the journals or some conferences, they will get some technology and they will get excited to repeat that kind of experimentation there and do that. But they will be limited to certain TRL technology readiness levels. So they will go up to the proof of concept kind of level. But what industry is looking? Industry is looking for TRL 8 9 kind of. So where the technology has to work realistically in their environment. So in that case, If they collaborate, our industry goes to the university, they will give based on your POC, that your experience, they will give the realistic problem, they will ensure that these people will work in line with the industry requirement, and they will go hand in hand and develop the technology. That's how the skilling will happen. And the particular student or whatever human resource, they are ready to be taken into the industry, and that's how it will be helping the GCCs. That because these GCC only training them, okay, without any expenditure of salaries or anything, but it's like a subsidiary research center for them, the universities are happening. So it is like a win-win situation for the academy as well as industries, and this is happening tremendous with, I can say it's exponential graph in India, it is happening.
I have a slightly different take to this. I'll bring in a different socio-economy angle to this entire piece. I think when it comes to grooming talent at the university level, first you have to look at where is our input coming from. 20 years back, and institutes will tell you, students came from a background where they were the first generation into the corporate, and they came from a tier 2 city where they had no exposure, their family had no exposure to what corporate life looked like. And they were looking for a reverse EMI kind of a salary where it sounded like a state job, and saying, yes, I want a fairly stable job. I'm still stuck on the 3 months, loyalty period. Say 5 years is good enough for a job, and then I'll possibly switch and move on. Now that has changed. A lot of these students today come from second generation corporate families. That's number one. Two, they come from tier two towns, but tier two towns are not the kind of tier two towns they were 25 years back. So, what that is leading to is they are willing to deal with a lot more ambiguity in life, which they were not willing to do 25 years ago or 20 years ago, even. But when they can live with ambiguity, what happens is they're trying to experiment with new things. And that is why this whole experimentation appetite is much higher in the student per se, and becomes a different kind of employee. That's one side of it. The second side of it also is that the time to scale for a student into a corporate career is very, very different now. I want to give an example. Most of the jobs we used to get earlier was there was some person doing this job in, say, US or UK or in Europe, and we want to hire somebody in India. Today, a lot of requests we get is that, hey, we have a requirement for, say, UX designer. And if I go to upwork.com, I get a UX designer for $100 an hour, right? Can I get a UX designer here? You would be surprised in institute also. There are people who have learned that art even before they've graduated, want to actually show their skills on Upwork, get even a $50 job, and then I have a true ready material to evaluate them on and saying, okay, I think you are a good UX designer. So this entire game is changing, and that is why all the people in the game have to think a little differently. The talent is different and is going to be even more different in the next 5 years. The learnability is very different because the tools available to learn something new are very different too. At the same time, they are willing to live with far more ambiguity. So this is the first generation employees we're going to hire who are willing to take a break after a couple of years of job. Not a concept that we had like 10 years back and saying, oh, you worked for 5 years, all of a sudden losing job would say, hey, I'm nowhere. Like, what would I tell my parents? Now it's totally good thing. In fact, parents will say, why don't you take a break? So let's look at the socio-economy part of that also. It's a super important angle. We are dealing with different corporates who are bringing GCCs here. We are dealing with very different set of people who are getting hired, and we're dealing with a very different set of technology which is handling all of it. So
Got it. So got that part. So as in what I was thinking more like is that, interestingly in our last podcast as well, people brought that, these GCC leaders want people with domain specific experience and are willing to invest time and effort into, skilling these people. But right now, the way it is going is kind of, very, very contemporary way or orthodox way, and it is taking a longer time than they would probably want. So, what I am thinking is, just food for thought, and I wanted your opinions because you're at the ground. So, a GCC says this is the kind of talent I want, and then they have an SOP for a kind of a center of excellence, and then that center of excellence kind of this thing is already put out there, and colleges that are willing to do that kind of an investment is coming forward by themselves.
Yeah.
And then those kind of that kind of becomes like different talent pipelines into that. And then slowly but steadily the college becomes like first year is just academia, and then 2 3 4 is just purely
Industry.
industry. And somebody is so that is something that I am thinking
I
interestingly.
can just answer on that and saying the metric you want to think is time to value.
Time to.
Simple. It's time to value because the corporate who's hiring you wants to know in how many days will you start delivering as the person anywhere else in the world. Now, the time to value, I'll tell you, 10, 15 years ago was very different. You would be sent for even basic training, how to write a good email, how to make sure you use spell
90
check,
days.
and how to get on a conference call and make sure you're muted and all of those things. These days, hardly any of that is needed. If you find the right filters, you can get that kind of talent. And given the exposure to media and others, fresh graduates are actually not too much of a problem in scalability. But then the domain skill is harder to teach because who's going to train them on the domain? Like, is the manager sitting in the 12 time zones away going to spend time in training a fresher on the domain? Or they're going to have somebody 70% ready and 30% they're going to learn on the job tools and the environment, and be ready in 3 months. The metric I use is if we are interviewing somebody, and I've hired 200 people in the last 5 years, I always think of one thing. In 90 days, will this person be delivering at par with the existing person in the team? If yes, go for it.
So I also believe that 100% ready stuff would not be possible.
It's a
Okay,
myth.
it's a myth. It's a myth. It's like n tends to infinity, n never gets to infinity. So that's how I look at it. So somebody like an Indian GCC leader who understands the domain well, kind of teaches all these people. More kind of a, what do you say, a very democratic way where the content is there, and then they get to 50 60%, then they decide whether they want to pursue that domain. Then probably then do it, because you don't want somebody in second year saying, okay, you are going to retail Walmart, done, next 3 years you're the. So that is also something that this generation doesn't like. So that kind of flexibility plus this.
I would like to share one experience.
No,
Sorry.
no, go ahead, please.
Yeah, see, when we talk about the leadership and all in our sessions, so we often ask people, the CXOs meets. I will be asking the question: are you going to look for a person who is like a skill set like IT? We talk about, right, with a T like I like kind of thing. But the thing is, my personal experience, I prefer W, not even T. Means that's like he's expert in one field, okay, that is like I shape, but he is expert in one field, but he is aware of other fields that gives a T shape. But W is basically he is expert in multiple, like W, he is aware of three more skill sets or technologies, but he is expert in multiple like W. Okay, why this is utmost needed? Because while I was doing one project, for one MNC, that guy is very good in design. Okay, because this aerospace is completely different when you compare to IT sector. So that guy is very good at design, and he address minute issues also where he can predict. But the problem was that guy was not well versed with the manufacturing technology. So if I need to produce one component, okay, he considered aesthetics, he considered performance, everything. But the thing is, when it has to go to the production line, he has to consider the tolerances and he has to see the error aspects of that. So that guy is not aware of such kind of things, and ultimately, when he goes to the vendor, he tumble for the vendor development aspects. So that's where then again I had to pitch in, and I has to, I mean, bridge that gap and tell that. So in that scenario, if you consider only one particular domain expertise for one role, then you have to be cautious what role are you offering to that guy. Okay, whether he needs like IT or W skill set also, that is very much important. Yeah, please.
No, I think here the intent and purpose has to be very clear, right? Now, who is hiring? What are you hiring for? Are you hiring people to become somebody in a couple years, or are you hiring for them to come and stay where they are for a few years, right? And as I was going back to, people are not looking at number of years anymore. It's exposure. You can be doing a postmaster job for 10 years, but that's the only skill that you've learned in 10 years, right? But you can be 1 year in some organization and you've done 10 things. So that has a acceleration compared to your 10 years. So that's the language and that's the concept we're looking at. So here what few universities and companies are doing, one is they do have something called industrial mentors that they're hiring who are not theoretical, who are not PhDs, who are not been in academia. These are the guys who are running organization or the entrepreneurs or being seasoned and industrialists who are nurturing the university grads into the real world, right? Where they clearly understand that, I like calling it as, instead of calling work life balance and all, it's work life integration. How do you play around with both the things, right? And that's the reality of life. So these industrial mentors are able to bring in that shift into the universities. And a lot of organizations are doing this. A lot of universities are doing MOUs with companies like that. And that's where in between you also have these gap fillers, organization who come in who say, hey, you want domain expert? You tell me where you want from. I will train those universities and you have them, right? So I'm doing it. The ownership is on mine. So that kind of operators are also existing in the market today, if you see. A lot of them, in fact. I think, and that is where we're trying to bring in the speed of delivery there. Instead of you coming, going through your onboarding process and then 2, 3 months to learn, 1 month to understand the culture of the organization, that's all cutting short because you already know where you're getting in. On the study projects are there. You are, the smartest example that we all take is of Steve Jobs when we speak about how he hired for Apple. He used to go to universities, do sessions, and he would identify 1, 2 people, and he would connect with them for good 6 to 1 year, 6 months to 1 year before they're actually employee of Apple, right? And then that is happening in reality across universities today.
Yeah. So there is a DTC model, right? So one is the domain capability that we are looking at, technology, obviously, and then the B or C, which is behavior, right? So I'm seeing a lot of universities putting a lot of effort on even behavior. So when you come into corporate, there are certain behaviors that you need to look at, from teamwork, critical thinking, analytical thinking. There's a concept called as cognitive flexibility, right? There's a new concept called as decision velocity, right? I'm sure you would have heard about Jeff Bezos talking about it. But then universities now are not looking at companies' way of hiring. They would want this person to be well rounded, so that if not this company, some other company can pick it up, because that's the way that they are looking at. Another thing that I have seen in one of the universities, can't quote because we are on NDA, is that we used to have this global rotation kind of a policy within the organization. So these students now, the universities are actually experimenting with some students where 1 year, maybe the 2 years MBA program, 6 months they will study sales, 6 months marketing, then HR and something else, so that they, while they do what they do, but they know what exactly happens in other functions also, right? So that's the focus, and that's the kind of quality GCC would want to hire.
I have some things to say at this. Taking on from what Manish and Asha and everyone was saying, increasingly it is very clear that GCCs and companies in general want students, the value of it from as quickly as possible. They are not willing to wait. So again, I'm going a bit historically to understand how shift is happening and what is happening right now. I'll give some examples as well. So we all know 20 years back, or perhaps most of us when we graduated, there was no internships also in India by and large. At the end of 4 year degree, you would get a job, and then you would go to that company. They would train you for 6 months, sometimes in Mysore and places, fancy places. You would get training, and then you would slowly start working, right? This has changed for sure in the last 7 8 years, and increasingly, I'll tell you, in the last 1 year, I'm seeing. So because I have been in this placement for about 8 years, when I came in 8 years back in 2018, 80% of my hiring, even in 2018, was direct jobs. That means companies, GCCs, product companies, even IT service, they would come and directly hire the student. Today, it is the other way. 80% are hiring only through internships. Okay, so that change has already happened, and that is well established now across India. We all know that. That means in final year they take them, and only then they will confirm the job at the end. So 80% is the number now. 80%. is students are getting job only by this. But now what has happened, it has come, industry connect with colleges have become much more deeper now. I'll just give you one example. Last week I was in Bangalore. There was a company, again, they are in this, they make the software for the automobile, for cars and all that, right? Car, yeah, mainly cars only. So what they have done is they were taking interns from us, but they are not happy with that also. So what they said, they roped in all the 15 colleges they hire from. They identified now 2000 students in sixth semester, that means in third year, and said that they are going to teach a course for these 2000 students across 15 colleges, on a Thursday and a Friday, 5 to 7 p.m. This was the minute planning that they did. They got all of us on board. They said that we will teach in these 2 hours, so don't keep your regular academics that time, right? So the company is going to teach 2000 students of 15 colleges in India, Thursday and Friday in 2 hour slot. And at the end of that course, they will assess them. So why is this there? Why is this course there? This course is going to fill what Manish was talking, the domain. See, because at the end of the college, okay, we will teach Java, we teach object-oriented programming, we will teach SQL, standard stuff we teach. But now software for automobile and what are the things you need to know specifically for that, colleges perhaps would not have that know-how, right? So they're going to do this course, and this is not the first. This is almost, I'll tell you, in the last 1 year, this is the 12th such case I've come across, where the company is saying we are going to come in third year, take students, train them in that domain, and technology has made that easy now. So this guy is going to sit in Bangalore and teach, and he's going to reach 2000 students at the same time. It's going to be live. I'm just taking this an example to show you how things are working at university. And at the end of that course, there is going to be an assessment, and out of the 200, 300 are going to get the internship. 2000, sorry. From 2000, it will come down to 300 who will get the internship. Correct? That means who have now. So what will happen for the company? They have successfully understood the domain. These are the top 300 of the 2000 who are doing the course. They will get the internship. And out of the 300, they plan to recruit 250 or something pan India. So this is how come, and this is not the first. There are, so this idea of projects, which Vishwanath was also saying, this is also coming now. Companies are routinely, colleges. We have, in fact, I'll tell you, we have 3 deans in our college only to get projects from companies. Full-time job. Okay, so this role only was not there in universities. To obtain projects from companies, there was no such role 10 years back. I mean, we were all just teaching chalk and duster. 3 professors are fully into this, just traveling, getting projects. So these are again all from GCCs only. These projects students will implement in their second, third year level. And if they have successfully implemented that project, then they will get the internship in final year, and then they get absorbed. You see the kind of planning that's happening, so I think it's going in a very good direction, as in, universities have also understood that gone are the days we will say that after 4 years we will give you a guy and you'll take him, and it's all gone.
Yeah.
It's, and whatever 20% is remaining, I'm sure in 2 years they will also stop that. There won't be any direct job, which is also causing a little socio situation, because still what has happened, Manish was saying that a lot of our students are coming from corporate, but again, a lot of students, even in colleges like ours in Pune, though we are in a good city, they come from rural background. So these students and their parents still have in their mind that I want a permanent job. So when they get an internship, they feel the placement officer has done nothing for them. He's only given an internship. Saying, where are you going to give me a job? So I have to coach the parents more, actually, that look, the things have changed now. It's not a job, it's an internship. Your daughter or son has to prove in the internship, and then only you're going to get it. So things are happening. So I think, yeah, it's going in a good direction. It's quite interesting.
The model I will explain. In fact, the answer to this is on the other side of the table. I'll tell you how we see it. The other side of the table is earlier there used to be a term called skill and will. Now, what we look at skill, will, learnability, scalability, and ability to deal with ambiguity. Now, think of these 5 things. All of these 5 things, you can actually, like he said, you can notice them in second year. You don't have to wait for them to go through a degree convocation and then see, do you have the skill? Do you have the will? Do you have the fire in the belly to do that? Do you have the learnability? Like the one question that I always ask, and a lot of people fail at it, what have you learned on your own without anybody asking you to learn and applied that knowledge in your daily life? Simple question. It's even saying the example that we use in training is, and this is an example I love myself because I somehow thought of it. In India, you buy a toaster or a washing machine, it comes with a 20-page instruction manual. But you buy an Android phone or Apple phone, doesn't even have a paper to tell you how to use it. Because they're expecting that the moment you switch it on, you will have the learnability to be able to get adopted to the device. Think of it. A toaster is a very, very silly machine, right? But they knew that the person who's going to open needs some instructions to do that. Now, two different kind of organizations building that kind of product have already thought through this. This is exactly where we have to go to the students and saying all of these things will be noticed when you get in this job. And I think the fear is real, and saying what is a job is like the term I use is reverse AMI for the next 5 to 25 years. That concept is largely gone.
Okay. So
In fact,
I
there is
have a
a
Gen Alpha kid who learned to use mobile before learned to talk. So that is how the generation is now. Any kid born from this year is Gen Beta. So forget, and what we are talking is like too old a concept, because my son could knew how to operate a phone just before he even started talking in words. So that's how it kind of happened. And I think more so students are very advanced.
Okay.
The leaders that you hire, I largely believe the leaders that you hire on the top of these GCCs are going to largely shape the way
absolutely.
this is going to go about. And I have a strong inclination against hiring leaders from these traditional IT sectors who have all their life just done SLAs, billings, headcount, hour calculation, timesheet. These are all not value creators. These are all clerical accountants.
This is called control mindset.
Yes.
It's control, span of control, and how many people can I deal with? The more the power, more the people, more the headcount. That's gone.
In fact, the word control has to be substituted with value.
Yeah.
And if you just flip that question saying, what value have you delivered to the organization you worked for? Asha picked that point very early in the conversation. That concept is still alien to us. Their value would be that I turned up to work 40 hours a week without taking a leave for the whole year. That is somehow not value. The body of work that you do, how has it impacted in the overall scheme of things for your organization? Whether you spoke to 5,000 customers, whether you made a sale, whether you supported 2,000 customers without an escalation, all of those metrics matter, and we got to give that mindset. And that is why I keep going back to Karthik, and I think that's a great mindset in saying you got to train them early on this. You don't have to wait till they get the degree to actually get into that mindset. So the sooner you get there, I think we'll build a better talent profile for GCCs.
Just to supplement your point, I think the today's GCC leaders, if they are saying that I had managed 100, 200, 300 people and managed transformation and all that, I think that's not the kind of leaders that we are looking at. If somebody says that this is a program that I led, I created this, I was neck deep into this. There are code issues that I had to sort it out and all that stuff, and then I created this entire product. This product is now running on your mobile that you're using, and that's kind of leader that we are looking at today.
So more a 0 to 1 leader
Yes,
than
so
a 1 to 100 kind of a leader.
yeah. In fact, we created a small model, mathematical model. The moment when you use any of those terminologies, the model will say that okay, you're talking to the wrong guy. So please, and I think this is for all the people who are hearing. I think the value that you're creating yourself is more important than you telling that you have done through the teams and all that. I think so. I think we were asked this question when you're in interviews, right? So what you have done is more important than as a team what you have done.
Got it.
The vocabularies, just
Mm.
to add on, what kind of statements are you making? I was one among the team who did this.
Mm.
Yeah.
Are you one among the team who did this? And what did you do? Were you just sending mails? Or were you doing something more than that? I think that is where it becomes what have you done? Have you moved a needle? Right? And do you have that capability to have those fantastic conversations where, I mean, I love this word called as credible activist. Are you a credible activist? That's nothing but trust plus courage. Do you have the courage and clear trust to go to your HQ and say, hey, the strategy that you put is good on the board, but it will not work here. And let me tell you how I can make that work. Right? I think that is the leader that's going to turn the needle around. And people will look up to those leaders. All your Gen Zs, I mean, I do go to a couple of universities. Recently did a emotional intelligence session for about 600 students. And I can tell you, they're looking for a different concept. They don't want a leader who's going to say, you came 5 minutes late.
So what?
So what? Exactly, right? But did I deliver in 3 months? And that's where I said the loyalty concept has changed. In 3 months, and I have heard this from the leaders where they say, that boy was in the office only for 6 months, but look at the job he's done. He got a product to the launch. That is what they also want, and that is what the companies also
Here
want.
actually the attitude matters. Okay, I would like to share one of the experiences during one of the interviews. I asked one guy about one technical question. The guy, he told actually, sir, actually this was missing in our curriculum, so I could not cover. Then I said, okay, no problem. Then the conversation went on. Then I asked him, what is the social media profiles that you have? So he is having Insta, FB, X, everything he is having. So where did you learn all these things?
Hmm.
He learned on his own. So interest matters. Okay, so
Interest
you are more focused on your leisure time spending. Okay, but you are not focusing on your career building, which is actually your longest journey. So that is your attitude. So that's where when we pick up any talent, as you mentioned, so we have to see the attitude, which you need not ask any questions by the way they work, the way they move. That will tell you what kind of attitude is that, and where that will take your organization also.
Got it. So, Asha, a follow up to that question. So, whenever now GCCs are hiring executive leaders, do you see a clear shift in them telling we want people to drive global initiatives and influence strategy versus people who are just managers and headcount managers?
Totally, totally. That's where I think right from if you look at the whole concept has changed from the titles, from delivery heads, it's chief transformation officers or head of strategy, head of insights. No more we are doing those payroll processing or customer calls, right? Now you're talking to your client and managing his wealth, your prime client, right? He could be a Hollywood star. His account is getting managed in India, end to end. So that's the level of work that we're talking about, high end functions. When we're talking about IP creations, like R&Ds, we're creating the designs, we're having things going out from here. So you are clearly delivering it to the end client, right? And so you obviously need a leader who can think like that. And the leader should be somebody who's exposed, who's seen business, who's interacted with your end clients and customers, probably front ended of customer experience, very important, because that gives you a vision, right? You're foresighted in it. You clearly know what is your delivery. That's when you can go to the table and talk and negotiate with your HQ or CXO leaders. Hey, I know what my customer experience is or what my end customer is, and I know what brings that value here. I know how to create that value. So that's where I said stakeholder management is replaced with stakeholder influence, right? And the soft skills that we were talking about, and which is still labeled as soft skills, I like to call them as power skills. That's your negotiation, communication, and empathy. Empathy is very important. And can you be purpose driven, right? Very clearly. A lot of one simple example that I can give you today is if you see university students and students who are studying, if there is a paper cup, right, which is biodegradable, priced at 50, and the regular plastic cup priced at 20, they will buy the 51 or 41 and not the 21.
Okay.
Yeah,
I look a
because I'm
little.
conscious about what's happening to the environment. They're very clear and very conscious. They have a very clear, very perfect. I love the thought process. Clear, no hush. I can do it. I can't do it. I want this. This is what I can deliver. Perfect. No ambiguity.
Oh, very opinionated, yes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd still pick the $20 cup.
Yeah.
So yeah. So Venu, interestingly, as a continuation to the point you made, from you've been with national institutes, government labs, and all of that. From your learnings and parallels from that universe, how do you think GCC collaboration with academia should happen if we want to make India the global R&D powerhouse?
This is actually very much. I mean, I could say that this is the neither the or kind of concept. See, from ages, we are talking about industry academia collaboration or PPP model. We talk about it. Okay, so I will give you example. Um, if you take NASA kind of organizations, okay, they doesn't work alone. They work in collaboration with Lockheed Martin kind of organizations or some more private players. Okay, so why they work like that? They establish the research centers with that. Okay, and they will go in collaboration and they work together for a common goal. Okay, this is global scenario. Now the same kind of scenario is again coming to India. And if you take Department of Space, let me quote that, they actually they are shown the successful path in establishing that kind of relation with the vendors. Okay, the vendors will be part of their research. The vendors will be part of the production of the components. So now this kind of relation with other industries and other academia will help for the fastest growth, because we are talking about the time, the value of time. Okay, so for a given task or given project, how quickly I can deliver that. Okay, so that will be effective if you collaborate with academia and industries, and then only you will progress well, because one single mind cannot give you all the solutions. Okay, you have to distribute the problems with different minds and collectively think and do that. So now when it comes to government organizations also, they are already stepping into that and they are moving in that path to collaborate and establish GCC kind of centers across the country to give the global competence. And in fact, I would like to say that it's not just competence, we are actually mastering the technologies. We are actually leading those technologies with the global competitors also. So that trend already started and it is marching much faster than what we thought, and it will go much the way I'm seeing the trend. Okay, it is not that no particular organization is having that awareness. Now most of the private players also, they are coming voluntarily with the investments. Okay, if I take the aerospace itself as an example, establishing an R&D center in the field of aerospace is actually, it is very huge investment. Okay, but still private players are coming forward to contribute with the huge investment, because their vision is very much clear that they will progress well and they will get the fruits.
Output.
Okay, got it. Thank. Vishwanath, another question. So, I try to probe you in this part because you still deal with the talent. So, let's say already there is a cost arbitrage kind of a GCC setup that has been there for 3 4 years now, and their leaders are seeing that their competitors are doing much more value creation out of the GCC in India, and they want to shift to being uh, a value creation GCC than a cost arbitrage GCC. They come to you and, hey Vishwanath, as a strategist, what would you advise? What are the key three things that they will have to do in the next 12 months?
So one is the technology at which they need to study what technology that these guys need to go to versus what is happening today, and then they need to create a map in terms of that. And for creating that kind of advancement or technology, do they have real people, right? I think most often not we will see that the people are not really aligned to what they are supposed to be doing, and some lift and shift needs to be there. And third is a mindset, right? So what happens is, till now you I am a really good scientist, right? And you are asking me to do some process, some operations and all that. You tuned me to that direction. Today you are asking me to create value, so that's a mind shift. So some psychological kind of intervention needs to be there, where, because these guys are really good, you can't find these kind of people elsewhere. So you need to invest that kind of a thing and make that. So people, technology, and culture. I think these are the three investment that you need to do. And most likely, if this needs to happen, the site leader has to have a smaller role at least in the global operation, so that at least they know what is happening. Otherwise, somebody said something and these guys are doing something, and the new CEO comes in, automatically everything goes out, right? So these guys have to have a seat in the table. Seat in the table is just not about sitting and just hearing. I think you also need to, you spoke about opinions, right? I think you need to talk about your opinions. At the end of the day, I always tell this to the team: if you have come to this meeting and if your answers are given, you are not going out with any questions again. And if you are going with that kind of questions, your meeting is not done. So that kind of a rigor has to be there. Technology, people, and culture, I think they need to invest on. An external consultant can do a good job in identifying all these three gaps, because sometimes what happens is we are totally understanding, okay, we can do it kind of thing, but an external consultant can do that. There are frameworks which are available. Look at that. Somebody has to smartly take a decision of what needs to be done. I think we are taken care.
Wonderful. So, precisely, you mean to say this guy should be a part and parcel of the whole global roadmap. Then only he's not just an Indian guy sitting here and managing people and giving a PNL every month. So that is something that is a strong shift. I don't know if it's happening.
So there
No,
are
I
there's
think
one
it is
retail
happening. That's
there's
where
one retail organization, can't mention your name. This India's MD is also the global CTO. There's a banking organization, and there's another organization which is into crypto. These are three organizations that I know that this is
yeah.
happening, and that's where from a GVC to we are actually moving to GTC, where truly a transformation is really happening, right? And the headquarters is saying that, okay, you are pretty much doing everything what I'm looking at. And then best part is the GTC plus is that, okay, now I wanted the access to your customers. I will talk to the customers, right? English we can speak well, technology we can understand. What stops us to talk to your customer?
To our customers.
Huh, our
That is
customers.
the
Yeah,
larger
that is
shift we will get there. Wonderfully put. Actually,
very
this is
important.
something that
Yeah, because I think just to second that, or add on to it, the whole concept is: are you just part of operational calls, client escalations, or are you part of strategic calls? Are you also taking a shot? Right? I think that will actually clearly define how the whole GCC will start functioning.
okay.
Right? Because can you take the inputs from there and what we deliver here based on the talent and inputs? Can you go back and say, hey, we need to alter our strategy because this is not working, and I'm positive this will work? That's the language a leader will have to speak, and that's happening. I can't name the GCCs. There are a couple of GCCs that I work with. One of the GCCs that I'm working with cuts across industries, right? Cement to aerospace to retail to across, and that's the concept people are looking at. That's the language. That's the leader expectation. They say, "Oh, please don't come with the baggage saying I had 20 years. I've done this." Thank you.
You're old, not experienced.
No, so that's why I said number of years doesn't count. Exposure counts.
Wonderful. So Manish, just wanted to, kind of shift you. I wanted to ask you, what thing makes an HQ say, hey, know what, no more cost arbitrage. This is going to be my strategic, directional powerhouse. What makes an HQ say that?
If you earn trust, trust is one concept that we don't talk about much. By the way, we are very good at earning trust. At the same time, we're very good at losing trust also. But I think earning trust, let's talk about that much. Let's look at a typical organization where you have delivered extremely good work over a period of time. You've also shown scale, you've shown flexibility, all of that. That will tell the leadership team in saying which organization, which part of the team do I bet on. That's when the HQ gets up and says, why can't we do this out of our GCC in India? That's one. Second piece also is that earlier the distances used to be very high. For example, how many people from the India GCC would know how the HQ works? Today, the cross cultural time transport is actually very fast. You could land there on a Sunday morning, and Monday morning, you could be working for the next 4 weeks, and you would know everything how they think and do you have people in the room there talking good about you when you are not there, talking about your body of work? If you have earned that kind of credibility and trust, I think HQ will definitely talk. The last tangent in this is you have to keep raising the bar on the culture of meritocracy. That is where sometimes I feel we actually think, like Asha was saying, if somebody has done 5 years, oh, he has been here 5 years or she's been here 5 years, that's okay, let's give them another chance. Maybe they just got a little slack. But if you don't keep raising the bar on meritocracy, then you would lose that trust and you would lose that seat on the table. You have to be more aggressive than the rest of the organization and actually holding that bar higher. And I can tell you, the merit is there. Somebody just needs to stay on it for much longer.
I think that's where I relate to the word credible activists. You should be a credible activist. That's trust plus courage.
Yes.
Right? You need to build a trust, create the credibility, and then you have a courage to speak. Right? Because you built it. You've shown what you are. You've shown what you're capable of. So instead of your global GCCs becoming reliable yet replaceable center, you become a capability center which they want to protect when the budget hits.
I'll give an example. One of the GCCs, what they have done is they kind of procrastinated the problem the headquarters were actually, you know, to come across, or maybe they'll face in the next 1 year. They created a startup ecosystem and the university ecosystem. They solved the problem, and they went to headquarters and saying that, okay, this is a solution that I have for the problem that you will face in next 2 to 3 years. And that became another GCC, which is the baby GCC of this GCC. Now look at the leader. He could have said, okay, I am having these 10 things I should do, I'll do this. But then he chose to do 10 things. In addition to that, the 11th thing, which became a big GCC. Now there are 300 people. He can actually take credit of 300 jobs. Right? That's the kind of leader that we are looking at. That's the kind of leader HQ is looking at.
Okay.
I'm tempted to add to that and saying you have to also ask and saying what makes a GCC leader very happy. See, at the end of the day, you've got to look at the softer aspect of it. If you go work for the armed forces in the country, you feel proud of the uniform. I think what gives me pride is that over the years, I would have hired X number of people who are possibly doing very well in their career. Number one. Number two, also, it's national service.
It is.
It's
Entrepreneurship
national
is
service. It's
highly.
honorable national
Yes.
service. Number three, I think it gives you a very clear purpose that we are a civilization of thousands of years who were primarily leaning on knowledge, and our culture is actually now showing to the world and saying we are bouncing back. And I think not been in a nationalist favor, but I think overall the world is seeing the power of it. And when I say think beyond English speaking countries, I've had colleagues from Middle East, European countries, and they would tell you that they are looking at the talent the way it is scaling in India, and especially over the next 10 to 15 years. Some of the data around this will tell you data, especially from the social media organizations. And I used to be an organization which used to research on social media trends. It's staggering. It's amazing.
Wonderful. So it was a great discussion. I want to, switch to the decision dilemmas part of our discussion. Yes,
One
please.
point I'll just add.
Yeah, go ahead.
Earlier, not in this, earlier Manish was saying about a very important skill they look for is learnability, right? He was saying.
Yes.
So it's not. So I'll just share a very amusing anecdote, I may say, what happened in our college recently with the GCC company. So these guys, what they did, they said they told me this year that they will come at second year engineering and higher. So I was like, okay, this is pretty early. I said, why do you want to do that? They said that we will hire them at second year as an intern at the end of second year. If they do well in that internship, they will get another internship at the end of the third year. If they do well in that internship, they will get yet another internship, a full 6 month one in final year, and then they will get the job, which pays 15 lakhs, right? So this is the cycle. So I said, fine. So they came a second year, and I said, what are you going to assess the students on? They said, we just want to see mathematical ability and basic programming, because that you're anyway teaching in first year. I said, okay, come. But what happens in India, students can come directly to second year engineering if they've completed a diploma.
Yeah.
You would know that. So
Yes.
this was an amusing case where the students from diploma had just joined college second year. They had not attended any lecture in college, nothing. They directly sat for placements. As in, they had taken admission, and there it was placement, because this company had come for second year students, and diploma students also do basic programming and all that. So they said that okay, they are also eligible to participate in this whole thing. And it was very amusing, because generally, we have this whole thing that only after you've completed your education you're going to sit for a placement. And here we had a case of a good bunch of 40 students who had joined the college directly out of diploma, and they directly sat for the company, and one of them got it also, based on their whatever
Very
skill.
interesting.
So what he was saying earlier, learnability,
Yeah.
mathematical ability, learnability, problem solving. So actually, that way, much has not changed also. Though many times companies say that things have changed and all. Yes, technologies have changed, agreed. Certain domains may be new. But what I see in fresher hiring at least is still companies lay a lot of emphasis on basic aptitude in terms of your communication. They see your mathematical ability, and they see your problem solving ability if you have that. And if that is there, any language, it may be Java, Python, C, whatever, they get hired.
Cool.
And very good jobs also, not just, students get very good jobs based on that. So that's how it
So
is.
there is another concept called learn how to
You,
learn.
you wanted to say something on
No,
top
no,
of
no, no.
this?
What he's saying is whatever you said. So typically, whatever we learn becomes obsolete in 2 years. What is the point of a 4 year course in learning something which will be, go through two cycles before it ends? So it's better to learn something that is on the market. And unlearning is also a very
Yeah,
important skill.
you are
Yeah,
right.
but then what I see, what education gives a student is that ability to learn, that aptitude building. It's not about just the technology. See, I may have learned .NET, let's say. I may not use it. Maybe my company where I join needs some other technology where I need to work, or maybe if the domain is different. Like I said, automobile, software specific to that. I need to know certain more things about it. But that education has given me that critical thinking ability, right? Which has
Curiosity.
may given me the, yeah, like, how engineering is, by and large you study a lot by yourself, so that enables you to learn anything new very quickly. See, that's important. So it's not just about the subjects that
It's
we
I,
learn.
enabling.
I would like to
Uh,
give one small story. In my mentor sessions, I just tell to my mentees, okay, this is goes like Gurukul olden days, okay, where one student goes to the guru, and he will be learning the education, and he says, Guru, whatever I'm learning, it is actually I don't see any usage in future, because the way we discuss among our students, I don't think whatever I'm learning it is going to help me in my future. Then the guru says, so okay, you are having the confusion about the subject what you learn, okay, I'm feeling thirsty, can you get me fetch me some water from the filter? There is a filter actually, that like a sieve, like tea coffee filter, okay, can you get me water from there? Then this boy, because guru's instruction he has to follow, so he take that filter, though he is having some doubts on that. He sees this filter is very ages old, rusted, everything is just thrown away, and guru is asking water from there, okay. Then this boy goes to the water source and he picks up, but right, it's just a sieve and it's a filter kind of thing full of porous and holes. Water will not be held in that. By the time he reaches Guru, water, no water is there. Again, he goes there, comes back. This cycle goes on. After sometimes he tries all the way holding it on, but by the time he reaches to Guru, there is no water in that. Then ultimately he says, Guru, what is this? You gave me the task to get you the water, but with this sieve, I'm not able to get the water. Then the Guru says, forget about water and all. Now, before this task, you are seeing the filter which is rusted and it is not clean, untidy. Now, what happened to that filter? Then, when you see that it's obviously clean, neat, right? Then he says, this is what education mean to you. Okay, It will not, the purpose you are thinking that to get to the water, okay, but it in the process it will, what you say, that it will polish your brain, it will give you the ability, as you mentioned, it will give you the ability to learn anything and ability to do anything. So that is the power of education. Don't think only in one direction. So
Last example I'll give in this story is, this is what I tell my children also. Just because AI will tell you how to fix your grammar doesn't mean that you don't need to pass your grammar exam in school.
Yeah.
Spell check has evolved so much over the years, and I can tell you, I do get candidates who cannot write without a spell check. Now, see, that is where the fear is. Learnability means that you know how to use an AI and a spell checker and a Grammarly to do it right. But at the same time, you should be able to do it right without that in the first place, get to the right structure at least. It's autonomous cars will come, but that doesn't mean you don't need to know when to stop on the stop sign. You must know that. So I think that's the conversation has gone to that extent, but that thing will evolve now. We'll have to make sure that they develop the art of one being self introspective and self critical, and then get to find resources online and learn and apply.
Wonderful. Totally. So I'm also going through the phase, as in when you're saying, probably it's like, somebody driving a manual shift to an automatic, and then automatic to an semi-autonomous car, semi-autonomous to a fully autonomous vehicle. Every time, because whenever I interact with, right, people tell, You guys don't work as hard as we did." We create more stuff than you do. That is my answer to that kind of a question. It's a little bit of a, what do you say, anti-school kind of a thought. But yeah, my belief, education is not going to an institution and writing examination. Education is whatever we go through as a process in knowing new things and putting it into structure. So that is where I differ a little from the traditional education. But by and large, still you need a way to get the talent funneled and to you in a kind of a pre-consumable format, or else it becomes too raw and not usable.
One angle that he touched on, why second year students, is discipline. The discipline is developed in you even if you're a diploma holder. So it is very easy for a hiring manager to see what is your level of discipline, self discipline, to be able to go learn, to be able to go apply, to be able to deliver in time. Because for the first 5 years of your career, you're going to be a doer, and the doer who delivers autonomously, largely with very few instructions. Now, if you haven't developed that self discipline, then you'll need higher amount of supervision, and you're a waste of resource on the manager's time. So therefore, they're actually noticing that in the first, second year internship. I mean, the maths is pretty simple. 5 rounds of typical interview, 60-minute interview is 200 minutes of assessment time, with which you will get 30% attention. 60 minutes assessment. In internship, you have seen a person over a 3 month period.
Yeah.
You have a far better assessment, and then you would rather invest an additional $5,000 on that person, because now if you have got 95 out of 100 people out of internship, only 5 will go wrong. Whereas in the traditional hiring model that 10, 15 years ago, you would hire 100 and then you would let go another 20. So you are actually getting better from a quality check standpoint through this model. So I think that brings us to the close of the conversation, does it?
It does. It does. We'll have a longer conversation over lunch.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah. So now the interesting part of our this thing. So this is the corporate version of truth or dare or rapid fire kind of a thing. So we call it decision dilemmas. We give you two options. You get to pick one. Okay. Uh, to the prelude, whatever we had said.
Yeah.
So we'll start with Manish. GCC charter, cost savings engine or strategic value engine?
Strategic value engine.
Org placement, report into the global CEO or report into the global CTO?
CEO.
One mega GCC in India or multiple smaller hubs across
multiple smaller hubs.
One product end to end or support many products partially?
Support many products partially.
Cost per FTE or business outcomes shift from the GCC?
Business outcomes shift from the GCC.
Good student. You did stick to your guns. So, Venu, for you, short term applied projects or long horizon deep research?
This is mission and vision. So long term project is I mean priority compared to short term, but both are important.
Work alone as a national lab or co create with a GCC?
Co-creation,
Hire toppers only or hire curious experimenters?
experimentalists,
Publish more papers or file more patents?
patents, because papers are byproduct of that.
More advanced equipment or more high quality researchers?
This is mission and vision again. So both are required because one will become obsolete without other. So researchers are anyway top priority and equipment is second, but both needed.
Okay. Oh. As he
He
told me,
kind
he
of
did not. He
he
wanted
kind
a
he
mix
kind
of
of
both.
he kind of said that he will publish a
But he did give priority to the
Yeah,
researcher, to the
he did.
people,
finally
over the infrastructure. At the end
Yes,
of the
yes.
day, he made his point. Yeah.
finally he
Yeah,
made his point.
yeah. Vishwanath, one flagship GCC logo or five mid-sized GCC logo for a
Five
client?
mid-sized GCC any day.
Okay. One niche deep capability or broad multi-capability menu?
Broad multi capability.
Okay. Long-term retainers or high-impact short projects?
High impact short projects.
Bootstrapped steady scale or VC-backed rapid scale?
Bootstrapped.
Okay. Top-down CXO selling or bottom-up champion-led selling?
Bottom up. Champion setting.
Okay. So, Asha, so perfect culture fit or heavyweight CVC with a weak cultural fit?
Perfect culture fit.
Okay. Internal promotion or external fresh leader?
External fresh leader.
Okay.
Wow.
So, strong domain, average communication or average domain, outstanding communication?
This is for the leader role if you're looking at.
Uh,
If it's a leader role, I would pick the second one.
Okay. So, move fast with two, three strong profiles or show many options and decide slower?
Decide slower.
Okay. Stay longer and grow within one GCC or switch to broaden your exposure?
Stay longer if you have an elbow space to move around.
No,
If I'm going to be sitting in the same chair for 10 years, I'd rather move. Otherwise, I'm going to develop a lot of health issues.
No, no, no. Defining elbow space becomes the next point.
Maybe for the next podcast.
Yeah. So now to the man, Karthik. Maximum number of offers, but fewer but high quality right fit roles.
Maximum number of offers.
Syllabus coverage or project based learning.
Project based learning.
More guest lectures or more live projects and internships.
Live projects and internships.
Written exams or portfolio plus presentations.
Written exam.
You're always in the dilemma between the HOD and the placement office.
So I'll tell you
Also
why.
you can
I'll
add
tell you
the
why
question.
on this. We had an experiment a couple years in the middle where we reduced written examination weightage to less than 20% and gave importance to all the other portfolio. But we realized it didn't go very well because that written exam, that grind that the student goes through, na, that has its own importance. All said and done, we may say we forgot everything, but that 15 days intensely when you study, right, that sweat you put in, that learning which happens, whatever, it may be short term,
Aye.
but you go through that grind. We realize that grind is important, whether we like it or not. It was
Discipline
our
I
of
agree.
realization.
learning spelling.
I agree.
Discipline of learning spelling and
I don't know.
grammar.
The whole process.
Will not
that
go.
Because
process
we
is
changed
fantastic.
it in 2021. Ours was only portfolio with 20% weightage to written exam and 80% to projects and all other things. Then we realized kids are not, going through that grind. He said no. We again got it up to 50% written. He said that no, that's important. So
It
it's just a
develops a
realization.
grain in the character is developed by the exam is what
Yeah,
is
yes,
not the
it is.
learn not what they
I think
study.
it's not about the exam, but it's preparation to the
Yeah,
exam.
yeah, exactly.
That's what he's
It's
talking
not the
about.
exam, it's that preparation,
yeah.
that grind.
It's not winning the match,
Yeah.
but
Double
preparation to
click
win
it
that
one more
match.
time. You have to train discipline. Whether you go to a gym, whether you drive, whether you do even basic tasks, it's a discipline that you got to train. And I think that's what education
Knowledge
institutes
will
do
come.
very well in.
One thing I want to add here, the written tests also. Then again, open book is much challenging compared to closed book exams. Okay, open books that gives real challenge to the student, where how much hard work he has put to understand the concepts.
He
Okay.
Yeah,
should
but
know
for
where the
that,
question is.
the
Where
professor has to be at that level. I've seen that. There are some professors who put like,
When we
but
joined
then you have to
Musigma,
be a. I mean, open book means the professor has to have that level of understanding of the subject to allow an open book, because then you can't ask something very routine. You'll have to really think deep, which is not there anywhere in any book.
when we joined Musigma, it was an open book test for us after the 3 month training. Eight questions thrown at us, and we had full internet access, but we were not there was no Gen AI, but we were not able to find even five, and that was the level of this thing. And we
Yeah.
were like, what kind of tests have we written all our life? Was the kind of question we had after the first open book test we had. So
it's
yeah.
tough. It's not easy actually.
A very popular open book way in which many colleges do in India is you can bring one sheet of paper. That means whatever you write in that, front and back, A4 size sheet, you can write whatever you want to write. Bring that and sit. So that's also worked. That also works well. Now, how much will you write? I mean, the students write extremely minute. They come up with very unique ways. No problem. Do
But
what
that's a
you want.
creativity,
That's
right? You're
creativity.
enhancing creative thinking.
Basically.
There's a test that I take in some of the interviews I've taken. I tell the candidate in saying, I'll go make coffee. You have 10 minutes. Write down 5 good lines, 5 GL, 5 good lines about the impact you've made to one of the roles you've done in the last 5 years. 5 good lines. And the only rule is you can't use adjectives like extremely, highly, probably, likely, which is a problem that we have. Amazing, all of that.
Yeah.
I don't care. Give me, and each line should have a number. 5 lines.
They will
I will
struggle to
tell
write.
you, 80% of them manage 2 lines. 2 lines. Maybe three. Very rarely have I seen a candidate do five.
In my interviews, I had one question on CSR. So, in the last 4 years of your education, what is that one project that you are very proud of when you have done something to the community?
Good.
And 80% of the times, they have not done that. They have done that, but they don't know that they have done it for community. And one person, I think, recently wrote that when we were the Corona period, I think they supported a small bot kind of thing for policemen to find out where the number of people are high, so that they need something. So they also understand education beyond, and then they think that education can also solve the problems that they could not think that they can solve the problems.
One thing to add to Vishwanath, nowadays, this hackathons have become a very popular way, which many GCCs, what they do, they help connect uh, these theoretical problems, what we may call, to real life challenges and so social impact. I mean, I would say at least 25% of companies these days are hiring through hackathon only. And the hackathons are all like this, connected to real life. They will engage the student for 24 to 48 hours. Either it's hosted in the campus only or in the company also, many times. And they have access to everything, all technology, everything. And there's a real problem to solve in society. They have to come up with a solution. So that's a very good way in which students start thinking. Very popular.
Micro
Hackathon.
hackathons is something that I've tried before, and I'll give an example of a micro hackathon. Primarily, what you're looking at, you're looking at ability to build a decision tree in your head and apply. The easiest example to this is ask them, where do you do your e-shopping? And say they say Flipkart, Meesho, whatever. And saying, okay, build a new chatbot and decide the first 5 questions that the chatbot should ask you, and you should not be able to ask the sixth question. Now they're thinking like the customer service agent on the other end. Okay, where is your order number? What is this? Okay, you have this in this database, you have this in this database. In the 10-minute conversation, without any tools, you would be able to read if they're able to make a decision tree. Now, they may have cracked a CAT exam, they have done top in their school, they have done. Learnability is the best answer in this is I can think of the first 2 questions. Ability to say no is one a micro hackathon actually says in saying, if they just make up random 5 things, I know that they will tomorrow make up anything. They'll make up numbers also, right? A lot of people that I had basically said, Manish, I can think of first 3 questions. I don't think I can think of the 5. Awesome.
Which is okay.
This is okay. Okay.
Okay. So the last question to you, Karthik: Are students' preference more in big brand GCCs or smaller companies?
Big brand GCCs.
Got it. Cool. So I wanted to finish it off with a contribution, where we as a, as a podcast and in collaboration with Vishwakarma, we are trying to, bridge the academia and the industry gap, both, by offering internships or, by offering, live projects or, interacting with students or creating domain conversations and all of that. So wanted to start with you, Asha, this way we'll go this way around. So how would you like that we advance the industry academia collaboration and bring students up to speed faster, and how do you think you can help in that?
I think one, as I did say, I do work with a lot of universities already. I am an industrial mentor for a couple of educares, in fact, and do also support a lot of programs. Like I lead a champion as a champion for Goldman Sachs 10K program, which I globally promote and nationally. And the whole program is written by Leeds University. Right? It's brilliant. So similarly, I have seen that the way we can help universities is to bring them and close the gap that exists between what I learn and how I apply. Right? What you've learned, do you know how to apply? So if we can bring them closer to that application part, I think that's what matters. Right? When you're teaching your students why you're learning these maths, so you should know how to apply. Right? Critical thinking, you know how to apply. Problem solving, how to apply. So I think application part is where we can definitely, I mean, I can contribute there, right from helping in the power skills to also have yourself presenting. Like one of the things that I've seen, and Manish was mentioning about it, we do have people who cannot put one resume in, I mean, the resume in one page because they worked for 25 years.
Okay.
Can you speak about yourself in 1 minute for 25 years that you've done? We can build that talent.
Got it. Venu?
Yeah, here my focus is not with the students. My focus is with the faculties. Okay, so uh, I would like to extend my support in developing the skill set for the faculties, because that's actually generally my mindset. Even my innovation, GM also, I focused on the core reasons, because the students may, I mean, they're like a floating population. Okay, so it's a continuous process. Instead of that, I would like to upskill the faculties. Okay, where the applications, the applied science, that's one thing, as you mentioned. Then the connectivity, what industry expects. And it's not just the technology that we need to teach, it's the even protocols. And for example, if you take up any project, how a DPR should be, okay, how it has to be prepared so that it will be in line with the policies of the organization, and it should be in line with the government rules and regulations, so such kind of things. So I would like to contribute for the FDPs, like faculty development programs, so that the skill set will lie with the university or institute, whether I'm there or not with them.
Manish?
I have a concept called Dashwant, which is a concept in our culture, which is that 10% of your earning should be donated. The way I practice this is, and I've done it for last 8 years now, is that I keep 10% of my work time for things which have nothing to do with my work, which will simply use my competencies in different domains to help somebody. It could be a student wanting to get advice on what should I do, or people randomly reaching out to me on LinkedIn and saying, I want to prepare for an interview at Amazon. How do I do that? Or even going to an institute and actually being a guest lecturer for free. The reason why I say this is you can't fix it on one range. The 20-year-old today has to work for 30 years. There is a possibility that the job they will do 15 years from now, that job hasn't even been invented today. So you can't tell them and saying do X and I know X is good. In fact, my problem is that a lot of people on social media and others who are telling them to do X and Y in motivation have actually not done them themselves. They've never been fired themselves, they've never hired anybody, they've never retained anybody, they've not managed large teams, they've not managed conflicts, and they will tell you all the story about their world. It's important that we actually work with the academia today to build skills that will scale them for next 30 years. The problem that I see is that there should be a bridge in between wherein we pick up people, get them to work because a lot of people like have done their job right. Now they're available to share that knowledge. And I think this used to be in our culture originally. Somehow we're losing that concept. And I think we should bring that concept back in saying 10% of time I'm willing to give to any organization in academia who wants my time for a particular purpose. And I used to do a module called Campus to Corporate as to what are the 10 mistakes that students who come into corporate make in the first 5 years of their career.
So I do this also for my living to some extent because what we do is we do student mentoring programs. One of the flagship programs that I run is how to crack FANG interview, right? And I'm proud to say that 44 people have cracked those FANG interviews and they are working in FANG companies, right? I'm reverse engineering all of those experiences. It's not about what I'm teaching. I'm also reverse engineering all those 44 experiences, which means these 44 people are living and they can also call you and talk to you. It's just not about somebody talking to you. Second is faculty engagement program. He spoke about it. I'll not take much time, but then what is happening is faculties are still thinking that life has not changed too much, but this industry has changed a lot of things, right? They need to be engaged. They don't want to be developed, right? And yeah, we understand, right? So they also come with same experience. So they need to be told what's happening. Institutions, projects, right? So at least 30 to 35% of the time I'm spending time in getting companies to get some projects. Through the projects, faculties get involved, and through the faculty, students are getting involved. Entire ecosystem is taken care, and we do this something called as remote internship where the faculty takes responsibility of delivery, student and other there are 4 or 5 students will take responsibility of delivery. Last but not the least is we have give it to society kind of thing where we go back and talk about what's happening in the last 5 years 6 years. And I am a good reader. I read a lot about Deloitte has come up with this list of 30 new jobs which will come up in 5 years down the line. So we go and talk about it as one slide. Okay, these are the 5 jobs that you don't exist today and they are coming today. So that's what I do.
Wonderful. Very helpful. So we want to, work with all of you on that, and then we will create a repository of all these things so that it becomes kind of non fungible kind of a thing, so that it can, last beyond a lifetime. So that's the idea.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was a wonderful conversation. A lot of insights into how people and thought processes have changed, both not just internally inside India, from the leaders outside, and it is very helpful for us to see how we can go forward from here. And I'm sure it would have been very helpful for the students who've heard this as well. Sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.